Welcome to the Smarter Driver Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rick August, and here we're going to get you on the road to becoming a safer, smarter driver. And no, my degree is not in driving. My degree, in fact, is in legal history, which many of you know is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. Here, we're going to look at the fundamental conflict of traffic, which is collisions versus congestion. And we're going to look at the arena of social driving, the challenges you face as a driver, the challenges you face when getting a license or starting a career as a truck or bus driver. The car's all gassed up, we're ready to go. Let's get started. Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you tonight about what to do if you get pulled over by police, the correct procedures, who are the police, why are they pulling you over, what is the authority that allows police to do that, and where do laws come from, and who is the government organization that's enacting the laws, and what is the purpose of all of this? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's get started. Tim, Drive Smart BC, have a look at that if you're in the province of British Columbia and want to know anything about traffic safety, road construction, road safety, driving instruction, all of those topics related to the big umbrella of, being safe on the roadways. As well, there's an excellent forum over there that you can participate in and talk with authorities and those types of things. So definitely check out his channel. Most of what I'm going to talk about in terms of policing is directed towards the United States, and I am going to talk about police forces there. Now, let's just lay a few ground rules here in terms of talking about policing. I've put up some videos on other platforms, not so much here on YouTube, but other platforms. We can have a discussion about policing, but we are not going to criticize people. We are not going to have this descend into a discussion about race and racism. This is not what this is about. This is about being pulled over by police, what you need to do to keep both yourself and the police officer safe, how to do that correctly, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about your rights, why you're being pulled over, and those types of things. We're not talking about all of the rest of it. Yes, some of it is problematic, and some of this is needed to be discussed, for sure, no doubt, but we'll leave that for other people and other different topics because it's completely outside of the scope of what we're doing here and what we're trying to do to help people. Tim says, nothing wrong with me. Twitch. Pulled over by police. What do you do if you're pulled over by police? And who are the police? What are they doing? Why are they pulling you over? What is the traffic infraction that you've committed that has caused police to pull you over? All right, those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. Earned my doctorate in legal history in 2006 from the University of Melbourne. Yes, I lived in Australia for 5 years. I was a driving instructor there and drove coaches while I was going to university. Started the online business in 2015. It has been incredibly successful. And the video that I put up last week on Wednesday, this video, gauges and switches in a big truck. I basically sat in a big truck, explained what the gauges and switches were in the big truck, and this video just rolled over 25,000 views after 3 days, which is, I need to figure out what the Cadbury secret is of that video so I can repeat that. All right. Levels of policing in the United States of America. You have city police departments. Chicago has its own police force. New York has its own police force. LA has its own police force. Dallas has its own police force. So police forces, and these police forces police traffic and other crimes within the city. There is a large portion of these police forces that their resources are dedicated towards traffic management. As Tim says, he worked for 20 years doing traffic enforcement. Sheriff departments work at the local level. The difference between sheriff departments and city police departments is that the sheriff is elected by the constituent in and around the area where they live, so outside of large metropolitan areas. State troopers, these are the state police and usually work along interstates and do other crime that's underneath the state laws, okay? Capitol Police look after congressmen and any other senators and people who live and work in the United States of America, so they have jurisdiction nationwide. Federal police are not going to pull you over. The FBI, if you work for the FBI or the Secret Service or other large intelligence agencies in the United States of America, you have to have a college degree for one thing, and they are not going to police traffic. Where do laws come from? Okay, these are put forward in Congress and they're debated. They're passed in Congress. They go through the Senate in the United States of America, and then they're given presidential assent, and then they're passed into law. And it is the idea of authority, and it is based in the Constitution, laws, Parliament. There are a lot of big organizations that you are part of as an American citizen in the United States of America. Now, I did talk a little bit about race in the United States of America, and when officers or a cadre of officers go rogue, that is power, and that is unsanctioned abuse. Now, authority is based in the United States Constitution. It's the same thing here in Canada. We have a constitution as well. The authority of police is based in that constitution, and they are the only sector of government society that is sanctioned to use physical force underneath the laws and constitutions within that country. Okay? And this is necessary for public safety and public order. It's the fundamental conflict of traffic, collisions versus congestion. And let me just unpack that for a little bit, okay? We want to get people, goods, and services between point A and point B as quickly as humanly possible. How many times have we been behind somebody that's going slow and we're like, why is that person going so slow? We want to go as fast as we possibly can. But we need to balance that, on the other hand, with crashes and collisions. So how fast can we let people go? What can we let people do on the roadways? And balancing that against how many crashes and collisions and injuries, maimings, and death can society sustain? Okay? Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada is our Constitution. Exactly. Thank you, Corey. Okay, the thin blue line. Police departments put forward the idea that they are the thin blue line between society and crime. The reality of most police departments is as much of their resources and energies go towards public order, public maintenance, okay? i.e. traffic and keeping us safe on the roadways. Many and most police officers, and Tim can probably talk to this more than I can, but you have to understand that most of the time police are dealing with the not so nice element of society. And unfortunately, with public, mental health being kind of offloaded into public spaces and those types of things, we have more transients, and police are burdened with dealing with this element of society as well. So different places, different countries, different regions have different ideas and different opinions about policing. When I lived in Australia, for example, they had a very negative attitude towards the police forces. Here in Canada, we tend to respect our police forces a little bit more. I have had some comments about the United States of America. It depends where you are and those types of things. For the most part, it's pretty good. Some places, not so much. So it's going to be depending on region and area. Okay, traffic violations are order maintenance work. In other words, they're trying to keep traffic moving up and down the roadways and those types of things, keep people safe. And again, as I said before, it comes back to the fundamental conflict of traffic, which is collisions versus congestion. Okay, and then of course you have police cultures and academic journals. Books have been written about the conservative nature of police forces. And this is probably due to the fact that, as I said, they're not dealing with the nice people in society most of the time. As Tim just corrected me, exactly, in traffic enforcement, we were dealing with all aspect of society, which is absolutely true. Okay, it's a dangerous job. There's no doubt about it. I had the buggy breakdown today, and I ended up sitting on the side of the highway for 5 or 10 minutes, and it is not a place that you want to be. And we can talk about stories of people who, have not survived car crashes sitting on the side of the road. So they are definitely figuring out when they pull you over whether they are in a dangerous situation or not. So where are you in the world? Are you in a bad part of Chicago? Are you in a bad part of New York City? Or are you in New Jersey or someplace like that? They're looking at what kind of vehicle are you driving? How many people are in the vehicle? Is it just a couple, or are there 4 young males in the vehicle? And what state are you in when the police officer approaches your vehicle, okay? And cameras, definitely dash cams, body cams, cameras on phones, and these types of things have created accountability on the part of police forces, not only on the part of police forces, but also in the ability to prosecute and convict in courts of law. So these have changed the way that we view policing and the way that we hand out traffic tickets and those types of things. So that's kind of in a nutshell, a very high level overview of who police are and the authority that they have to pull you over for traffic infractions and those types of things. So here is the nuts and bolts of what you do when you get pulled over for a traffic infraction. Most of the time you're going to get pulled over, and Tim can confirm this or deny this or challenge me on this. Most of the time you're going to get pulled over for speeding. That has been my experience in being, being pulled over. Stop as soon as you can do safely. Someplace where you're going to be safe, you're going to be able to get off the road as far as you can. For example, when I was when I got broke down today on the side of the highway, there was no place for me to safely get off the roadway. So you can drive for a distance to get off someplace safely where it's going to be safe for both you and the officer. Do not get out of your vehicle when the officer approaches your vehicle. Wait in your vehicle until the officer comes to the window and starts to give you instructions. Do not fossick around in your car looking for your driver's license or those types of things. Simply wait for the officer, keep your hands in your lap or keep your hands on the steering wheel. First thing that you do not do when an officer approaches the window, do not deny what you have done. Okay, if you got pulled over for speeding, don't say, "Hey, officer, I wasn't speeding," because that is going to start the adversarial conversation. I made that mistake in the state of Pennsylvania. One time I got pulled over in a big truck for being in the 3rd lane. The officer comes up to the window and says, "License and registration, please." And I said, "Oh, is there a problem, officer?" And yes, then the officer was justified in yelling at me because I was denial of what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was out in the 3rd lane on the freeway, which you're not supposed to be in a big truck. In the United States of America, if you have a weapon in the vehicle, tell the officer immediately that you have a weapon in the vehicle, that you have a closed carry permit or a concealed carry permit rather, and that where the weapon is, it's underneath the seat on the passenger side, or it's underneath your seat, or it's in the console in the center of the vehicle. Tell the officer where the weapon is, okay? Follow the officer's instructions. If the officer asks you for your license and registration, simply say, "Okay, the license and registration is in the glove box. I'm going to reach for the license and registration. Is that all right?" And the officer will say, "Yes, it is." Okay, and as I said, and Mallory just said this, be nice. Don't be adversarial. They will throw the book at you, okay? So what goes around comes around. If you're polite, the officer is going to be polite in return, 9 times out of 10. There have been times when I've been pulled over for speeding and the officers come to the window that I knew as soon as the officer came to the window that I was going to get a ticket for whatever I did. Most of the time, as I said, it was speeding ticket. All right, move over laws. Here's the last piece to keep yourself safe. If you are on the highway and an officer has a vehicle pulled over on the side of the road, you must pull over to the left lane if you are able to on a multi-lane road, and you must slow to 40 miles per hour on the highway. And if you don't do this on a driver's test, you will fail your driver's test. So know that move over laws exist all across the United States of America and in Canada as well. And as Tim just said, probably don't say anything, listen and only respond if necessary. And that's exactly it. Your recourse when you are given a ticket by a police officer. In some U.S. states, California is very big on this. You will have to attend a defensive driving course. Now, sometimes you have to do it in person and show up at the driving school, or you could do it online. You receive the ticket. There's a place on the back of the ticket where you can simply sign your name and plead guilty to the ticket and pay the ticket. Now, in some places, you're going to be assigned demerit points, depending on the state that you're in or the province. If you are assigned demerits, your insurance premiums may go up, because know that insurance companies track these traffic infractions on your license, okay? And your last option is to plead not guilty, and you can go to traffic court. Now, you need to know that if you there's a couple of options about that. We can talk about that during the discussion in terms of going to traffic court. And Tim probably has some good stories about going to traffic court as well. So we'll leave it there for that. Tim said, yes, my first traffic supervisor said that God would not have made traffic tickets with 3 spaces if he didn't mean for you to fill them out. Awesome. That's awesome. Tim says, in the province of British Columbia, emergency lights only, find a good spot and pull over, lights and siren, pull over and stop now. Yes, excellent point. And I suspect that is the same, not just in the province of British Columbia, but I suspect that is the same in any state, that if they have sirens on and activated, that probably means pull over like now, right now, okay? Because they're coming at you. Tim says most people are not prepared to deal with traffic court, and I would agree with what Tim says in terms of going to traffic court. I did have one time that I went to traffic court. It was an incredible learning experience, and yes, I would say that that is exactly true. Very true in terms of going to traffic court. Tim says, go to traffic court as a spectator before your trial date, see what happens and plan your strategy from there. Yes, and I will tell you the story about going to traffic court. I got pulled over for a speeding ticket, decided that I was going to go to traffic court, and did in fact go to traffic court. The veteran police officers who had a lot of experience in traffic court spent a great deal of time describing in detail what had happened, what the weather was, where they were sitting on the roadway, which direction the traffic was traveling, which direction the person who they were giving a ticket to, what radar gun they were using, the model, what training they had had on that gun, and just an overwhelming amount of detail. At least that's what I thought. And they were successful in their conviction. The person was given the speeding ticket. My officer was obviously not very experienced, and gets up, says, I saw 2 males in the car. They were traveling eastbound on McTavish Road. The front of the car went down. I pulled them over and gave them a speeding ticket. No, I pulled them over and administered a ticket. And the judge said to the officer, was there anything else, officer? The officer said, no, that's all, ma'am. The judge said, again, are you sure, officer, that that is all that happened? And the officer said, yes, that's all that happened. The judge looked at me and said, Mr. August, the officer has failed to tell me what he charged you with, therefore you're free to go. And I suspect that this only happens once or twice with rookie police officers, and then they learn very quickly that there's a lot more to going to court. It's exactly what Tim is saying, that you need to go to court because it's going to be a very different kind of strategy for you to be successful in winning your case. If a Canadian driver committed a driving crime while visiting the US, do they still have to serve their time there? I used to think that they would give them a pass because they're Canadian. No, Richie. Now, a driving crime, a driving offense is not a crime, okay? Let's delve into law for a second. There is a criminal code of the United States of America under which there are criminal acts. Traffic infractions are not criminal acts. They are different, okay? And they are under highway traffic legislation. So those are 2 different pieces of legislation. And a traffic infraction is not the same as a crime that you would be charged, prosecuted, and convicted for. If you go to the United States of America and you are pulled over for a traffic offense, speeding, or making an illegal left-hand turn or those types of things, you simply have to pay the fine. If you don't pay the fine in the United States of America because you're a Canadian and you think that you don't have to pay the fine, they put out a warrant for your arrest in that state. So say that you did it in the state of Arkansas, for example. If they pull you over again, they will find out that there is a warrant out for your arrest. They will lock you up, and then they will only release you if you pay that fine. So know that if you're traveling in the United States of America. That's how that works. Tim is saying, I can guess who the JJP was, the Justice of Peace. There we go. Rain Craze, I was a walking person 6 months ago. I've been training in the winter here in Minnesota, passed my permit because of Rick, and also my road test because of him. Thank you so much. Rain Crazed, you are so welcome. That is awesome. Congratulations on passing your driver's test in the state of Minnesota. Let's talk about the poll that I put up this week. I put up a poll on what is the most dangerous state to be driving your car? And one of them was, the first option was drunk or high on marijuana. The second was prescription and over-the-counter medication, distracted driving, and there was one more, fatigue and fatigue driving. Drivers who probably smoked marijuana took umbrage with the fact that I said I put being drunk and being high together. They got very upset about that these two things were very different, that one was not the same as the other. And I hate to kind of try and read into this, but I was kind of reading into this and saying, oh, it's okay to drive high, but it's not okay to drive drunk. That's the impression that I was going to get coming back at me. So I'm kind of wondering about that. But anyway, you can put your opinions forward. You can put your comments, and they're very welcome because, as I said, I'm writing a book on the psychology of driving, and all of this is great information for me. So I'll tell you why I put that question up there. The reason I put that question up is because I had a driver getting their CDL license in the province of Nova Scotia. They were reading the PDIC book, the Professional Driver Improvement Course, and the question on the test was, what is the most dangerous state of driving? And she didn't know, and I didn't have access to the book because it's put out by the Canadian Safety Council, and it's proprietary, and they only put it with their course. And she came back to me and said the answer was actually fatigue. Fatigued drivers are the most dangerous on the roadways. Now, it's interesting, and I'm going to pause it and put forward that anti-drink driving campaign has been very successful in convincing people that drink driving is bad. And it is bad. Don't get me wrong. It is absolutely bad. You should not drink and drive, no doubt. However, fatigue driving is bad, and it's very high on the list. But prescription medication and over-the-counter drugs, I would argue, are as bad, if not worse, than the other three combined. What is can anybody kind of hazard, all of the smart drivers now or watching on the replay, hazard a guess the number of people in our society who are on prescription medications and what effect that has on you and on your driving, and whether you know whether it has an effect on your driving? I think that a lot of people think that just because it's prescribed medication or you can buy it over the counter, that it doesn't have any effect on your driving. And I would disagree with that, and I would take issue with that. So have a consideration about that. Rain Crazed, I'm sorry guys, but if you were under the influence here in Minnesota, you may be spending a night in jail. And Rain Crazed, it's the same thing here in the province of British Columbia. And interesting in terms of police powers, increased police powers in terms of drink driving, because unfortunately, increased laws around drink driving have not been effective in convicting people for drink driving. And many people who have been under the influence have gotten off in the court of law under a technicality, unfortunately, and now police have increased powers around drink driving, especially here in the province of British Columbia and in some of the states as well. So as the same as there in Minnesota, you're probably going to be spending the night in jail. Okay, Goose, you can't drink and drive here in Sudbury because you might hit a pothole and spill it. Coffee, of course. Smarty pants. Ioku, knowing some people smoking marijuana have driven while high. Obviously, I don't approve. I think your instinct is correct. Okay. Okay, excellent. Tim, drug-impaired driving is not something that I often dealt with. When I did, Crown was reluctant to prosecute. And yes, I think, it's interesting that because prescription medications are legal, it's something in our society that hasn't been questioned, and obviously there hasn't been any studies into it because it's not illegal. So is it something that we can quantify? Probably not. It's probably not something that we can quantify or something that we can do a study about. Tim says liquor containers in the ditch outnumber soft drink containers, and that is that's a sobering fact. Pardon the pun. Tyler, it's dangerous if your passengers are distracting the driver. Yes, they are, and this is one of the reasons that the GDL and GLP programs limit the number of passengers in the vehicle for new drivers. John, my friend, how many hours of sleep or rest in order to not get fatigued? John, it's not so much about how many hours you need to sleep to not be tired when you're driving. I would argue that it has a little bit to do with your circadian rhythms, your biological clock during the day, and that sometimes you're going to be, you're going to fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon because our biological clock takes a dip between kind of 1 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So there are some people that fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon due to the fact that, their circadian rhythms kind of dip, and it's a nice sunny day and it's warm in the car and those kinds of things. Next thing you know, they kind of fell asleep. And one of the difficulties we have as traffic safety authorities is single vehicle collisions. Vehicles that crash with a single driver in the car. We don't really know the reasons why many of these drivers crash. Are they drunk? Did they fall asleep at the wheel? Were they distracted? Were they speeding? Did something happen? And those types of things. It's one of those things that's really difficult to quantify, and we don't really know a great deal of things about it. So when two cars crash, we can kind of put a lot more information in. I mean, obviously it's a lot better now in the last 20 years because of computers in cars. We can get more factual information and reconstruct the crash, not the crime. Tim, we missed a few things in the traffic stop, like not digging around for documents while the officer approaches. Keep hands in view, interior lights on at night. Yes, and that's one of the things that I said in the presentation is that don't do anything in the vehicle until the officer approaches and follow the officer's instructions. Don't be digging around for documents, exactly what Tim said. Okay, with the officer, keep hands in view, interior lights on at night. Yes, so if the officer approaches at night, turn the interior light on and keep your hands in view. Either put them in your lap or put them on the steering wheel. Don't be moving your hands around and those types of things, because these are kind of, if there's criminal activity and the officer is in danger, then these are the telltale signs that put officers on alert to something happening, criminal behavior and those types of things. And I think that anybody who is a traffic professional, anybody who is vested in traffic safety, teaching people how to drive, those people realize that the task of driving is incredibly complex, and that if you think that you have it all figured out, that is a very arrogant attitude, and that is not true in any sense of the imagination, because you don't know it all, and there's too many variables in terms of driving. There's just too many things going on. And I mean, now we have technology, and I can't remember which smart driver was telling me about this in terms of adaptive cruise control, stability control on vehicles, and we have lane assist. And all of these technologies are difficult for older drivers, and they're difficult for new drivers to get accustomed to be able to drive and operate a motor vehicle safely. Epic, my friend, need to consider that when you pass a vehicle speed pulled over by police, must come over to the other lane because an accident involving a police or tow truck. States have laws in New Jersey, and it's not only in New Jersey, Epic, you're talking about the move over laws. They're more or less nationwide in the United States of America and in Canada as well. You have, if possible, you have to move over to the left lane, and you have to slow to 40 miles an hour or 60 kilometers an hour here in in Canada. Yes, we're on the metric system here in Canada. So know that when you're driving, to keep these emergency personnel safe, police, fire trucks, ambulances, and might be search and rescue and tow trucks as well. We want to keep all of these people safe along our highways. Tim, I see mistakes that I make when I try to. I wonder how those who don't care manage as well as they do. Yeah, there are some days, Tim, I look at other people who are on their phone, because I see people on their phones all the time when I'm walking around, going down to the school and going to the grocery store and those types of things. And I just think, how are you possibly driving a vehicle? Sam, I was driving my best friend's father's car back in 1990 when I was 19 and was hit by a drunk driver. It didn't affect me at all. No shock, Sam. That would kind of freak me out incredibly. Yeah, because traffic crashes are one of those things that many people go into you don't really expect it, and you go into a bit of shock over. Rain Craze, I don't, and new, I have to keep watching you, Rick. I can die tomorrow not watching. Brakes fail, anything at all. You help me every way you can. Excellent to be the best driver. Goose says, I wonder that too. Those types of drivers give us types of drivers a fairly wider margin for forgiving ourselves when we notice our own mistakes. Absolutely. And Mallory says, you're never too old to stop learning. And isn't that the truth? We definitely keep learning. And I mean, that's one of the things that I've been talking about, that our job in life is to grow, right? And one of the mission statements here at Smart Drive Test is to empower you to achieve your success. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're trying to help you with. And this is the reason that we put these polls out. We try and answer your comments. We try and come up with answers for you, because not all of the answers are the same, and not all authorities agree, and not all driving instructors are going to give you the same amount of information. And one of the things that I was talking about in terms of power over driving instructors are these driving instructors are not really interested in empowering you to be a better, safer, smarter driver. They're, look how much information I know, look how much knowledge I know. Well, that's not really helping you out. And that's not the purpose of what we're trying to do here at Smart Drive Test. It's not what Sam is doing in Bronx. It's not what Goose is doing there in Sudbury. And it's definitely not what Tim is doing there on Vancouver Island in terms of helping people. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people to become safer, smarter drivers. And in terms of the question that was asked earlier, theory versus practice, we're trying to give you information so that the practice of driving, you have information that you see a driver wandering in their lane, and we know from the information that Tim has given us and the information that we're presenting today in terms of police pulling you over and those types of things, that a high number of people are, drink driving is still a problem. And if you see another driver, another vehicle wandering in their lane, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should really back off here and give this person a lot of space, because this person might be drunk. This person might be high, because marijuana is now legal. And unfortunately, you make marijuana legal and it now becomes a problem with driving, that people are going to drive high.
With the Smarter Driver podcast, we provide the stepping stones towards your success in driving. We empower you to achieve your goals and aspirations as they relate to getting your first license, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or starting a career as a truck or bus driver. If you're just starting out and working towards getting your first license, be sure to check out the Smarter Driver course package down in the description. Guaranteed to pass first time. As well, if there's something about driving that just really irks you and you'd like to get it off your chest, please leave a comment. I'm your host, Dr. Rick August. Thanks very much for listening. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. Bye now.